the mic on? Is the mic on? Hello? Apollo, are you here?
I'm here, Joe.
Apollo.
It's good to see you, Joe.
It's been, man, it's so good to see you. I just want everybody to know that I got this coffee. I thought I was walking into coffee this morning. Apollo, I just want you to show you. Can you zoom in on that at all? You can't zoom in on it. Okay. Oh, yeah, yes, you can. It says, "Why are you gay?" Thanks, Apollo. I know you guys had something to do with it. No coffee, but I got a glass that says, "Why are you gay?"
That's kind of hoe. No coffee, but the message. I got to be honest, that's really hoe.
So it's been 20 days since Pam Bondi took office as Attorney General and just days since Kash Patel stepped in as the FBI director and now is the head of the ATF. Now, there's speculation that they're going to roll the ATF into the FBI, which I think is a mistake. I think they just need to abolish the ATF. But if they don't abolish the ATF, they need to strengthen the backbone of what the ATF represents. Not going to be very popular with people here. But the federal government, the rights under the Constitution, Second Amendment being the right to bear arms, is federally regulated. And so all these different states have created a lack of parity between Americans. In other words, in Florida, you have more rights than you do in New York when it comes to protecting you and your family. So they should do something about that. But there is a problem that's happened so far, and we're a little impatient as people. We want the Epstein files. We want to know what the delay is. What are you trying to hide from us? Why aren't you allowing us to have full transparency? And why are we delaying this? Donald Trump signed an executive order to declassify them. With each day passes, the amount of shenanigans that we feel like, okay, we're looking through the list. Here's someone we like. Here's someone we like. Here's someone we like. No, you got to release it. I have friends, and some of my friends have done things wrong. One of which, one of my friends went to prison for, I think, 1.5 years. He did something wrong. He could have gotten 10 years. He got 1.5 years. He's very good at what he did. But you have to pay the consequences. And so it doesn't matter who's on that list. Release the list. Don't negotiate. Release the list. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're also going to have Viva Frei on the show to break down Canada's downward spiral. He is from Canada. Amazing guy, lawyer. And so we're going to hear from him. We're also going to dive into the latest news about how corruption is unraveling almost before our eyes. And then Elon's DOGE is shaking things up a bit. The voter fraud cases are surfacing in Connecticut and Florida. There needs to be plenty of them in Colorado. Budget cuts are proving more urgent by the day, and congressional members are being caught red-handed. All this and more on today's Unfiltered podcast of Untamed. Untamed is going to be untamed. It's going to be a little crazy. I want to talk to my people. I want to talk to my brothers and sisters. We can have grace and humility in how we interact with other people. Oh, hot dog, look at you. And nobody talked about what's really happening. And let's have conversations about what truth is. All right, so let me get to the bottom of a few things first. I didn't even tease this because I'm just gonna go straight into it. Julie Kelly. Is Julie Kelly in the house? Oh, no, she's not. I'm gonna talk about a statement that was put out and a video that was put out by Julie Kelly. You say Julie Kelly stands up for J6ers. She's a mouthpiece. Look at what great stuff she's doing. Show me what great stuff she's doing. I want you to show me what is so great about the things that Julie Kelly's doing. I'm actually, you know what? Let me just relent. She's done some great things because she's become a mouthpiece for J6, and frankly, we need all the help we can get. But I'm gonna put this up there because one of my issues with Conservative Inc. specifically is that it's always an op. It's always an op. It's not because somebody picks up the phone and calls them and says, look, we have to discredit someone that has a high amount of intelligence and a high amount of competency. And anybody that knows anything about the business world knows that in the business world, you rise to the level of which you are incompetent because they do not value in most places. I mean, they do it at certain companies. Tech companies are a little bit more, I would say they need competency and intelligence. But they don't, there's no favor that is given in conservative Inc. for people who have a high competency and a high degree of intelligence. They become dangerous because they can't be bought. So Julie showed a video from MSNBC, otherwise known as MSDNC, which essentially claimed that Kyle Seraphin defended the Mar-a-Lago raid. This is also something that, just so you know, that Bongino said was indefensible, particularly the inclusion of the U.S. of lethal force policy in the FBI ops plan. Now, Dan Bongino is going to figure out really quickly that that is a part of their plan, that if the FBI has, there is a lethal force policy in place. It doesn't matter where it is. Now, what I want to do here is that Kelly claims that she broke the story about this op plan, this lethal force policy. Unfortunately, that's the policy in the FBI, and that's all that Kyle Seraphin was pointing out, is that, look, that's all to do about nothing. The lethal force policy cannot be revoked on a case-by-case basis. When they do a raid, that lethal force policy is in place. They don't make exceptions for it. The reason why they don't make exceptions for it is for the same reason that they should never have gone into Mar-a-Lago to begin with. They should never have been there going through Melania's underwear drawer. So let's give a listen, and then I'll give you my thoughts on this. And I had a post on this specifically. Let's go ahead and play it.
Ryan Riley, you have some great reporting on how this is being received inside the FBI. Tell us about it.
Yeah, I think a lot of eye rolls sort of within the FBI. But remember, there is a contingent within the FBI who is very supportive of Donald Trump and some of the moves that he is making. But when, Dan Bongino was announced, what my brain immediately went to was actually an interaction that he had with a former FBI special agent who's also now a podcaster, Kyle Seraphin. He's someone who is in very close communication with Kash Patel. Kash Patel's foundation, before Kash Patel was FBI director, actually had paid Kyle Seraphin's family, along with a couple of other right-wing FBI special agents. And there was this falling out because there's this disagreement about how this Mar-a-Lago raid was being discussed, because Dan Bongino accepted this sort of premise that there was something untoward about the Mar-a-Lago search, that the FBI had messed up there. And Kyle Seraphin looked at those documents and said that, no, this is actually really standard operating procedure. So there was this enormous falling out, even though basically Dan Bongino was the reason that Kyle Seraphin got onto the radar of Kash Patel and received that money. That's where he did his first interview, for example, when Kyle Seraphin was still this FBI whistleblower. There was this falling out over just basic facts, because Kyle, for everything about him, he's someone who is very much so about establishing the facts, and the facts is that this was standard operating procedure, how that search was conducted. The FBI did not have a plot to assassinate Donald Trump when they searched Mar-a-Lago, when Donald Trump was all the way in New Jersey. So you very quickly see this sort of breaking out into a different realm where you have a deputy director of the FBI now who just doesn't seem very dedicated to the facts based on what you just presented there, and based upon a lot of the rhetoric that we've seen previously. Of course, I should say Dan Bongino is, in his first appearance, I guess today, or last show today, was saying that he's now taking on a different role. But within the Bureau, there's just, this comes on top of just so much in the past month plus that has really just rocked the Bureau to its core. This isn't going to help that entire situation.
Okay, so Julie Kelly put up a post that says, NBC News reporter Ryan Riley reminds MSNBC audience how Kyle Seraphin defends the Mar-a-Lago raid, something Dan said was indefensible, particularly in the inclusion of the use of lethal force policy in the FBI ops plan, which I broke the story on. Okay, so I had to respond to that, because if you just heard the video, that's not what was said at all. That's not what he said at all. What he said is that he looked at the documents, and Kyle is all about facts. Now, the one thing I can say about Kyle is that me and Kyle don't always agree on everything. I don't agree with anyone on everything. If I did, then I'm probably somebody's puppet. But here's what I do agree on. Kyle is a man of great character. He is honorable. He will stand up for what's right regardless of the consequences. He, frankly, is willing to take on the consequences even if they're unfavorable to himself. The other thing that we need to look at when we talk about that specifically is, what are Kyle's motives? He was just trying to clear the air and get to a place where we could separate the two. He came out and said it's indefensible that they even raided Mar-a-Lago to begin with, that they could have literally just made a phone call and said, hey, we're coming, and had it be a cordial turnover of evidence and or execution of a search warrant, that it could be well known. That's not what happened. So I put this up. This is a lie. The problem is you built a story that does not exist. Kyle Seraphin never defended the raid. Quite the contrary. He never defended the raid. So the new old norm is trash someone that calls you out for donating to the Biden and the radical left. Lay down your sword on Kyle, Julie. He is the one that gave up his career for what was right. When again did you do this? When did you do anything more than be a mouthpiece for J6ers, which I appreciate, while never risking anything? Not a good look. And at Dan Bongino, come on, bro. You could disagree with some things Kyle says without biting off the bullshit that Kyle is anything but honorable. I'm disappointed. Now, for this, I had a lot of people that came down and started putting posts on this particular post. But for this, something happened. Julie Kelly, then I put this post up. She blocked me. She blocked me. She blocked me because she can't have hard conversations. Now, I continued to basically go after and say, let's be honest. But Kyle Seraphin, when Dan Bongino was put in a position where he went to be the deputy director of the FBI and was appointed by Kash Patel, he went on Benny Johnson's and he basically said, I support Dan Bongino 100%. Now, that's because Dan Bongino, even though Dan Bongino took the story that Julie Kelly manufactured and said that Kyle defended the raid, which he did not, she made up a story. This is what Con Inc. does. And typically what happens is Con Inc. creates the story because someone else over here says, we have someone that is competent and intelligent, and we don't want him to be back in the FBI. We want to do everything we can to stop that from happening. Now, here's the other thing that Kyle Seraphin is up against. We're going to get to a lot of different things today, but Kyle Seraphin with the other suspendables is up against this. And I know this to be a fact. There is this blue line. And when you become a whistleblower, some people see it as, well, does that mean that he's going to take the moral high ground on everything? Because sometimes it gets complicated when you get into law enforcement. And the reality of it is no. You recognize that people have bad days and good days. You recognize when you're in law enforcement for as long as Steve Friend and Garrett O'Boyles and Kyle Seraphin have been in those environments. Both, Kyle served in the Navy and Air Force, served in the Air Force. Sorry, Kyle. I almost put you in the Navy. In the Navy now. That you had things that you have to follow. Sometimes you have to follow orders you don't like. But there is a big difference between whistleblowing on an organization that is institutionally rotted to the core and defending and protecting your brothers who wear the uniform, regardless of what the uniform is. And so I think we if I had to give any advice to Dan Bongino and to Kash Patel with trepidation of bringing guys on that were whistleblowers and putting them in possession of trust and authority, I think you should have every ability to do that and see them as an asset to protect your back, because you have no idea. Neither one of you know where the bodies are buried. You don't know the vernacular. You're going to have to trust people to tell you the way things are. You're going to trust your instincts to one degree, and people are going to lie to you. Look what they did to President Trump in the first 4 years. So if you think that you can navigate all of this on your own, man, I'm going to pray for both of you. I think you're both amazing individuals. I mean, when Kash Patel came on this show, he's like, I don't know anything about that. I'd ask him about something. He's like, that's not what I work on. It's very clear. Like, this is the stuff I do work on, the stuff I don't work on. And Dan Bongino, he's a force to be reckoned with. So do I think that he has the ability to have an ethical barometer? Yes. Do I think that it is a bunch of Judases and that there are some Brutuses out there that want to stab people in the face, yeah, that's also, two things can be true at the same time. And so having guys that are the Kyle Seraphims of the world are important. And so it's not a fanboy moment for me. It's if we really want to rise to the occasion and solve some of the bullshit that we deal with in our communities and in the FBI and in this government structure, you got to have people that frankly have a bone to pick, that are willing to stand shoulder to shoulder with you, back to back with you, and make sure that they have your six against those people that are going to smile, nod, and try to do harm to the two of you. And stop. Whew. That's all I got right there. All right, so let's move on. I said my piece. When we said it before that Pam Bondi was sworn in 20 days ago, there were some promises that were made. And now people are becoming increasingly uncomfortable with the fact that we don't have access to this information yet. What's more important and what's more disturbing is that Nancy Pelosi is worth what, $300 million on $160,000 a year salary? $300 million. Her husband was I think he was a gardener or a landscaper, and he's batting 100. I mean, the guy is better than Bernie Madoff in real life. But here's somebody that literally is getting it. He gets it. This is just an American out there that says, you know what? Where are the Epstein list? Where is it? Why has it been so long? Why can't we have access? Well, you have to be our daddy? He says some things that I've been saying for years. Play it.
Breaking news out of Washington, D.C. This is so wild. The Epstein list has not come out. It's not coming out. There's no accountability. Nobody's behind fucking bars. Nancy Pelosi makes $170K a year, but she's worth on Google $270 million. She's not behind bars. Every politician that put their hands in our fucking pockets and stole our money for the last 4 years, they're not behind bars. Nobody's being held accountable. We're still here, going to work every day, Monday through Friday, fucking modern day slaves. Where's the accountability?
Where's the accountability? Tell me where the accountability is. And in a lot of ways, I'd agree. We're only a month into it, though. So we're only 30 days in. But there's a lot to get done. And frankly, let's just start ripping the Band-Aids off. Anna Paulina Luna, she's the rep from Florida, tore into Pam Bondi for stalling on the release of the Jeffrey Epstein list. Now, I'm going to tell you something. I am not going to tear into Pam Bondi. Just imagine having 50 states, and you have states out there that are doing everything they can to stand in the way of progress. I mean, they're doing everything. You have Maine. You have the governor of Maine that says if the federal government stops dollars, does not give our funding to Maine, we'll just stop paying federal taxes. She said that. Now here's the problem. The second that she does that, she's in violation because she is a part of, you can have a confederation of states. You can get all the states together and you can make a decision together. But a governor does not have the authority to withhold or keep money that the federal government has in taxes. What's more important than that by itself is if we just walk past that piece just by itself, just walk past that. There's something else that could happen. If the governor of Maine can withhold federal taxes from the federal government, from employee taxes, and say, don't pay it, just give it to us, then the people inside of each one of these states that are a part of this slave state environment that pay property tax, we can also say we are not going to pay state tax. And I promise you, I could organize a movement, at least in 3 states that I know of, where I could go to businesses and say, stop paying state tax. One of those is Colorado. Stop paying it altogether. Stop paying the property tax. We'll stand out front with 100 guys. Tell them to come in and try to take your property. I mean, if you want to start a war over taxes because you think that you can cut off the penises of little boys and put tampons in the bathrooms of the boys' bathroom, and you can indoctrinate and groom children, like just got over and over again, then you know what? I guess what? we'll just stop paying state tax. We'll just stop paying taxes, period, and kind of restore order that way. And the federal government can take their taxes from tariffs, I guess. So I'm not going to tear into Pam Bondi because there's a lot going on. But we want to see the JFK assassination files. They were ordered declassified. They weren't ordered declassified, but, or if, they were ordered declassified. But here is Luna talking about this. Just play this short clip. This is basically saying enough is enough. You know what? Just hit the send button and let the American people see how institutionally rotten our government has been for decades. The button.
With the stroke of a pen, he committed to declassifying the files concerning the assassinations of President John F. Kennedy, Robert F. Kennedy, and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a decision not just monumental, but pivotal. It is with profound honor that I have been entrusted by Speaker Mike Johnson and Chairman James Comer to lead the House Oversight Task Force on Declassification of Federal Secrets. Together with the help of the White House, our intelligence allies, the Department of Defense, the Department of Justice, we will be conducting investigations into the following: the assassinations of JFK, RFK, and Dr. Martin Luther King, unidentified aerial phenomena, also known as UAPs, unidentified submerged objects, also known as USOs, the Epstein client list, the origins of COVID-19, and the 9/11 files. This task force will be a beacon of bipartisanship. On the Republican side, Representatives Burchett, Boebert, Burleson, Crane, Gill, and Mace will be joining me, although I'd like to note that I'm expanding this to the entire governing body and will be allowing certain members to waive on. Our first hearing is set for March. The date will be announced soon, and we've already initiated close to a dozen communications with various agencies, to include Pam Bondi at the Department of Justice and the Secretary of State. This will no longer be a task force that makes bold promises only to fade into irrelevance or send strongly worded letters. This will be a relentless pursuit of truth and transparency, and we will not stop until the American people have the answers they deserve. We will cut through the bureaucracy, challenge the stonewalling, and ensure that the American people finally get the truth that they have been denied for too long. If we are to endure and thrive as a nation, we must restore trust through transparency. The American people must be trusted to think for themselves, to form their own judgments from the truth that they are entitled to know. We've been treated like children for too long and kept in the dark by those we elected to serve us. It is my solemn duty to begin mending this trust, to form a new relationship between the government and the governed. Let us embark on this journey together towards a government that does not serve, but one that enlightens. That does not just serve, but one that enlightens. Trust through transparency that begins.
Okay, so this is where we have to ask the question. We have to ask the question. What is going on? Because it wasn't just Pam Bondi that said, hey, we're going to release these things. It was on day 3 that President Trump said, release the dogs. Let people see what happened to Martin Luther King. Let people see what happened to JFK. Let people see what happened and where and who is on the Epstein list. Now, is it personal gain? I mean, even Kash Patel, he said that on day 1, he would release the book. So where is it? Let's play it.
Well, the Epstein Black Book, like on day 1.
On day 1, roll out the Black Book.
So will you work with me on this issue so we know who worked with Jeffrey Epstein in building these sex trafficking rings?
Absolutely, Senator. Child sex trafficking has no place in the United States of America, and I will do everything, if confirmed as FBI director, to make sure the American public knows the full weight of what happened in the past.
Okay, so what's going on? Why isn't it released? And look, this is not a play on Pam Bondi or on Kash Patel. There's something else at work. How do you actually release it without corroborating documents? Now, we have a whistleblower that came out, and that whistleblower had this to say. FBI whistleblower confirms to journalist Schellenberger, and this is Michael Schellenberger, Criminals were destroying evidence related to Jeffrey Epstein files to protect the Clintons and JFK assassination to protect the CIA. Hillary Clinton went to Jeffrey Epstein's little boys and little girls island at least 6 times. Hillary, Bill Clinton, and Chelsea Clinton took regular trips to Epstein's New Mexico ranch, where he wanted to turn it into a baby breeding farm to see the human race with his DNA, and where he and Ghislaine Maxwell sexually abused and tortured many victims. Epstein visited the White House while the rapist was president 17 times. Let's put the picture up. There's Ghislaine Maxwell at Chelsea Clinton's wedding. There you go. Hillary Clinton was there 6 times. So who are they protecting? Why are we protecting a history and propping up a new history in front of it? Why are we doing that? Why is that even a thing? Why are the things that we're actually placing out there in front of, literally in front of the American people, so obvious that it's filled with corruption? I want to end this segment with this. Behizzi put on his tweet, and I think it says exactly what everyone is thinking. Trust me, the longer Pam Bondi takes to release the Epstein files, the more doubt people have about the information when it is released. We've been lied to for decades, and half-truths and whole lies. We just want the full truth for once. And then right underneath that was Ivan Raiklin says she hasn't even released all pardoned J6 political hostages. Many people are saying that we're not going to see the list. We're not going to see it. I mean, imagine not seeing a list that they've been saying that they release. Now, remember, they also said that they would, in the middle of all this, that they would pardon and release all J6ers. They said a lot of things. But it gets more complicated when you start looking and seeing the consequences of that. A lot of very powerful people were at his ranch in New Mexico. A lot of powerful people were at his island. And let's not forget the fact there's 380,000 children or more, women and children, that have disappeared after being sex trafficked or trafficked, however we want to put it, into the United States. That is an actual reality. So we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to be joined by Viva Frei. He's a Canadian lawyer, former politician, candidate for the People's Party of Canada, and podcaster. He grew up in Montreal. He's the youngest of 5 siblings, born in a Jewish family. He enjoyed creating videos, studied creative arts at Dawson College, and received his Bachelor of Arts at McGill University. He then received his civil law degree from the University Laval, where he was the editor-in-chief of the university's law journal. In 2007, he began practicing law following the footsteps of his father and older siblings, who were professionally for prominent commercial litigation firm Borden, Ladner, Jervis for 6 years, but left to be a freelance litigator after his first child. He's been a podcaster and been doing videos, I think, since 2018. We'll kind of go through that in a bit. But we're going to go commercial break. When we come back, we'll be joined by Viva Frei. We'll be right back. Do you want to get profits from the world's most productive oil basin? Bloomberg calls the Permian Basin the world's most important growth engine for oil production. Now there's a way for everyday investors to collect monthly checks from an incredible oil hotspot. It's not a stock, and it's not an ETF. Instead, you can actually own royalty rights on over 380,000 acres of prime oil and gas fields. The best part? 95% of all income from this investment gets paid directly to investors like you. You can simply sit back and collect the royalty checks month after month. You can get started with just $25 through any brokerage account. Visit oilboom2025.com to learn more about the opportunity from the Oxford Club's chief income strategist, Mark Lichtenfeld. That's oilboom2025.com to learn how to start collecting Permian Basin oil royalties today. Hi, I'm Joe, Supreme Leader of DCF Guns. What is DCF Guns, you ask? We're the best damn gun store and range in the universe. Do we have guns? We have all the guns. We got small guns. We got big guns. We even have beastly guns. We offer all types of training, and we have 5 ranges across our 3 locations. I'm a good shot. And of course, we have all types of ammo. We even have flamethrowers. Woo! We offer incredible membership opportunities, and members save even more on guns, ammo, and accessories. Military, both active and retired, and first responders get up to 40% off memberships. Come join the DCF family today, where we keep the range hot and the deals hotter. It's hot. In every thread, in every stitch, Honor-Bound USA weaves the fabric of the American spirit. It's not just apparel, it's a testament to God, family, and country. At Honor-Bound USA, we're a family of patriots who put our faith, family, and America first. When you visit our website, you'll find a line of products that embody our commitment to pray, stand, speak, and act. As the official site for the Untamed podcast, all of our products proclaim speaking the truth with courage. We also have the powerful documentary from Professor David Clements, Let My People Go. Identify yourself as one of the few who are willing to stand for what they believe in. Join the Honor-Bound USA family today. Wear it as a badge of honor, commitment to the values that shape us, and a pledge to the bright future we will build together. Because when you're honor-bound, you're not just wearing a brand, you're embodying a lifestyle.
It was around 10, 11 o'clock in the morning, and I received an email from PayPal. It showed in this email that there was a debit in my PayPal account that was going to be taken out. I don't remember following the link in the email even. I think I went straight to the PayPal account, and that pending debit was there. And it was for about $1,000, I believe, so it was a lot of money. So I called the phone number on that email. And it kind of, the way this guy was talking, I didn't even question what he was saying. And I've worked with computers for the past 40 years. And he just kept convincing me, and he was a legitimate person that was going to fix my computer, and I had faith in him that he was doing his job. I got in the car and I drove, and I was just thinking, this isn't right. I've given this guy enough money to buy like 2 computers. So I came home and I just thought about it some more, and I called my wife had come home. I was by myself. I had to fix the computer, fix my phone, change my bank accounts, change all of my passwords. I mean, I went through like 2 weeks of going through everything I owned, changing everything that I had because of this guy calling me for those 2 or 3 hours. How did I fall for this? And it was a very traumatic experience. I know I wasn't the only one out there that had fallen for this. Listen to yourself and think about it before you do anything, and don't just trust somebody, even though it's so believable somehow. If you feel comfortable getting a software to help you to find out, who that actually track these scams, do it. I mean, if they feel that's something important to you, do it.
Hi, I'm Joe, Supreme Leader of DCF. What is DCF, you ask? We're the best damn sandwich shop in the universe. Do we sell hoagies? Well, we're DCF, and the F doesn't stand for hoagies. We got 9mm sandwiches, we got beastly baguettes, and we toast buns like no other. Looking for training on bun safety? We got you covered, and our ranges are the best place to test out your new Not sandwich. So get your buns out, cause the sun's out, and let's party!
We're not actually.
We're a community of proud, fearless patriots who aren't afraid of wearing our values on our sleeve. We are Honor Bound USA, and we proudly declare our declaration to God, family, and country. When you visit our website, you'll find a line of products that embody our commitment to pray, stand, speak, and act. As the official site for the Untamed podcast, all of our products proclaim speaking the truth with courage. Explore our collection today, because when you're honor bound, you're not just wearing a brand, you're embodying a lifestyle. Welcome back. So I'm not going to waste a whole lot of time. I don't know how much time I have with him, but he's always a wealth of information. He's one of the few guys that I actually watch on a regular basis. And frankly, his commentary and his wisdom is well beyond his years. So with that said, Viva Frei, welcome to the show.
How's it going?
It's going well. It's going well. Hey, so tell us how in the world of everything going on in Canada, I know you're down in the United States now, right? You're down here.
Yeah, I'm in Florida, hopefully for a longer period of time. Things are not getting any better anytime soon in Canada.
So Trump really likes Trudeau. He likes him a lot.
The secret is nobody likes Trudeau. Like I had on, I don't know if you saw on Saturday, I had a woman named Ruby, or she's still named Ruby Dalla. She was running for the leadership race, because they need a new leader. And I asked her point blank, I said, everybody hates Trudeau, don't they? And she's a very polite, diplomatic, soon to be ex-liberal in my view. And she's like, the caucus spoke when they said you need to find a new leader. Nobody likes Justin Trudeau. Nobody likes the Liberals. The problem is the Liberals have convinced everybody that they hate Trump more than they should hate their own Liberal Party, which is where the problems really lie.
Well, do you think that they face the same problem in Canada? Well, I mean, I'll just say this. They face the same problems in Canada that we face down in the United States, that we don't have transparent elections, and you have a very shady process by which people are elected to begin with. I mean, would you say that's a problem in Canada?
I think people get mad at me for saying it's less of a problem at the federal level. It's more of a problem at the provincial level in terms of what they use for voting machines. Federal level, right. 2 pieces of ID, same day voting, paper, pencil, they check your name off. It's quite secure. The issue with federal elections is that, people complain about the 2-party system, but the 7-party system is pretty problematic as well. I mean, effectively, you have 2 dichotomies of parties in any event. So it's a de facto 2-party system, but you have the Conservatives and then the People's Party of Canada on the one hand. Then you've got the Liberals, the NDP, the Green Party, the Marxists. And so you basically have a de facto 2-system party. But when you split your vote out amongst all of these various parties, you end up having a minority Liberal government propped up by the NDP with a very feckless conservative opposition. So, the 2-party system has its problems, but so does the parliamentary system.
Yeah, there's no perfect system. The United States is probably more of a problem than anything else because of how badly it's infected with a lack of transparency. And frankly, there's 100 different ways to change the outcome of the election. What would you think? I have to ask you this question. What would you think about Canada becoming a 51st state?
I think strategically, America would be better off poaching the Canadians who want to be Americans than appropriating the ones who don't.
I totally agree.
It's like, I by the way, just so everybody knows, I just went exercising, so I'm still a little sweaty and a little bit wet from the shower. But Trump doesn't want Canada as a 51st state. It is a negotiation tactic. It's a subjugation tactic. And people don't like it that Trump is reminding Governor Trudeau that Canada is not even a 51st state. It has half of the GDP of California. Sure, it would be a sizable state. That's the size of the whole country. He doesn't want Canada as the 51st state. He wants Trudeau to know his position. He wants Canada to recognize that they live under the umbrella of the financial and economic and military security of America, and that they should start paying their fair share, to use their own term. But no, America is always better off poaching the immigrants or the emigrants of the Canadians who leave for a better life than appropriating the ones who boo the national anthem.
Yeah, that actually happened inside the hockey game. And I was absolutely and I have a lot of friends that are Canadian, and they said, yeah, Joe, most Canadians would not agree with that sentiment at all. It's almost as if they handpicked them.
Well, I mean, the problem is I've got a bunch of friends who defended it and who got personally mad at me. And these are people I've known for a long time. It's not the first time Canada's booed the American national anthem. America has booed the Canadian national anthem a few times in the past. It's stupid, juvenile, but especially in the context of what's going on right now, it's not the time or the place, and it certainly won't be value added or productive. But no, I won't say I took a lot of heat. I came down hard on it because it's a stupid thing to do, period. There are very few things as sacred as the national anthem. And the idea that they're booing the American national anthem, boycotting Tesla so they can go help China and buy from China, and they wouldn't dare boo the national anthem of China because they might risk fear getting, ending up in jail. It's just, you only hurt the ones you love, really. And that's what's going on here. Is it's a very familial relationship, and little brother thinks they can get away with giving big brother, a little noogie on the head, and it won't end well. But it was a stupid thing to do, and I think most Canadians should appreciate it. But there's a lot of them who are defending it.
Well, and that gets down to whether or not the Canada could economically or otherwise stand on its own 2 feet had the U.S. walked away from, or that they did walk away from Canada. I think it's a much more dangerous game for Trudeau than he realizes, because there are long-term implications for some of the kind of trade warfare or tariff warfare that he's creating right now. Boycotting bourbon, I mean, that's almost kiss to death.
But the big deal. First of all, Canadians buy American stuff because they want it,
yes.
And it's the stupidest game of chicken to play, because Canada's got its own problems, and a tariff war with the States will help none of them. 1 in 4 kids in Canada under 18 lives in food insecurity. I was just double checking the numbers today. The top 5 leading cause of death is medical assistance in dying, state-sanctioned murder, because the healthcare system can't support itself. So you have inflation, poverty, children living, with food insecurity, and then you're going to say, well, now we're going to tariff the living bejesus out of American stuff as if that's going to help. First of all, Canada's already tariffing a lot of stuff that comes in. It already exists. It's not like this thing is a total slap in the face or a total shocker. But Canada's got a bunch of problems, all of which will be exacerbated by a tariff war with America. And instead of just doing what they need to do, tighten up the border, stop having exponentially more people on terror watch lists crossing in from into the States from Canada than from Mexico. Tighten up the fentanyl trade, tighten up the drug trade in Canada. Do that. And be a good neighbor, not an ingrate that says, gimme, gimme, gimme. And when you don't, we're going to boo your national anthem.
Okay, so I gotta point this out, because I think it's one of the most dangerous things about Canada and why it's lost a little bit of its identity. I mean, it doesn't feel like I went to the Canada that I went to 10 years ago is completely different than the Canada that I went to recently. It's just different. It's just a different environment. I would say that the people are different. But over the last, you have what, 30? Is it 34 million? How many people are in Canada?
Now it's getting closer to 40, because there's a whopping amount of illegal immigrants in Canada, or temporary visas, which people are not leaving the country after they expire.
Yeah. So, but normal immigration, despite that, is about 500,000 a year. So it's taken over the last 20 years. That's where they've seen their population growth is. You have 9.5 million people that have legally immigrated to Canada over the last 17 years.
Yeah, it's 24% of the population, last time I checked, is born outside of Canada. 18% of members of parliament are born outside of Canada. But I mean, it's not a question of looking like it's a xenophobic thing. It doesn't matter where anybody comes from. When you import or at least allow for the importation of mass amounts of people from any different culture that is not, say, necessarily compatible with or adhering to Canadian values, it's going to cause a problem. My bigger problem is it's not, there are big problems that are resulting from the immigration. You see it in certain parts of Ontario. You sure as heck see it in British Columbia. What I noticed was the shift in Canada. I noticed it over COVID, but I've always heard the expression, inside the heart of every liberal is an aspiring tyrant. What I noticed was the biggest problem in Canada, were these so-called liberals who were very, very happy to turn Canada into a living tyranny than actually abide by true liberal principles. But it's a slew of problems. That 97% of population growth in Canada is via immigration. The native population is not growing. The native population is being killed in record numbers under this pretext of medical assistance and dying. And then that just exacerbates the need for more foreigners to make up for what the native and native, not white, like native Canadian, just generational Canadian, are not making up. It's how you destroy a nation. It's how you destroy a country via what was otherwise referred to as the racist conspiracy theory of the Great Replacement. It's not happening, and you're a racist for noticing it, but it's a good thing that it is.
Well, that just leads to, what you're talking about leads to massive problems with the people that were Canadian or generationally Canadian, feeling like they've been left behind, like they're in essence a stranger in their own homeland. And you see all this happen in the UK. You see this happen in other countries. This is not a phenomenon that it's done on purpose. This is a purposeful step that was taken by whoever decided at the very top of the food chain that they're going to destroy the ethos of just normal humanity.
Well, this is the ultimate irony is 8 years ago, Justin Trudeau says there's no such thing as a core Canadian identity. And then when Trump threatens why is my camera doing that? When Trump threatens tariffs, all of a sudden Trudeau becomes nationalistic and starts booing the national, proud to be Canadian. The problems are so outrageous. Like, you go to places like Brampton, Ontario, where you have the police department issuing public statements in what I believe is Punjab, because they're not even enclaves. It's just there's places where people speak neither French nor English. And then you sound like the racist, xenophobe bigot for saying, we live in Canada and the police are issuing statements in a third language simply because of demographic shift, which is wholly inorganic over a short period of time. And now they're talking about allowing non-Canadians or immigrants, foreigners, to join the military, to join the police force. It's happened in the past. This is how societies fail. This is how societies fall. And it almost feels like it's by design. I would argue that it quite clearly is, when you've got your WEF lackeys, Trudeau, Jagmeet Singh, facilitating the wholesale destruction of Canada, and what looks like the replacement of Justin Trudeau, who's going to be even worse than Trudeau himself. Mark Carney holds 3 passports: Canadian, British, Irish. WEF stooge, globalist banker, set to become the next prime minister of Canada. It's sad to watch. I grew up in that country thinking it was the most beautiful place on earth, and I would say right up until about 2019, I still thought it was. COVID hit, and as far as I'm concerned, everything changed, or at least the veil that I thought I knew was lifted.
Okay, so you have the veil, lifted. I want to talk about the new soon-to-be prime minister. It's almost a heir apparent. How is it the people in Canada, and this is why I get to the people are just smarter than this. Now, I would say that the 24% that come from countries that are, developing or third world, that haven't been kind of forced into a place where they assimilate into a society and they're allowed to choose to do what they did previously. That having 1/4 of your population, in essence, foreigners in the country does not help this. But what about the other 75%? Isn't there a kind of a movement that's kind of creating itself in Canada to drive people to make different decisions on who leads the nation?
I hope so. I do think when the next federal election comes around, the Liberals will get smashed. The irony is that I don't think anybody really knew who Mark Carney was before Trudeau announced his anticipated resignation after a replacement, after a leadership race. I certainly don't think anybody knew who he was in any meaningful sense, as in holding 3 passports, hasn't ever been a sitting MP. Basically, it looks like a Kamala-esque coronation that he's going to be the next prime minister of Canada when he replaces Justin Trudeau. We're going to have elections after that. And by all accounts, it looks like the Liberals are going to get smashed. And then hopefully you'll have the Conservatives maybe find a conservative bone in their body and start to draw back on the madness. But the problem is, we live in a country where, like in the States, if you vote Democrat, it means you like democracy. If you vote liberal, it means you're a liberal. In reality, the Democrat are the most fascistic party in America. The Liberals are the most anti-liberal party in Canada. The Conservatives are not much better. But there is, I hope, and I think...
I'm glad you said it. I was going to say it. I was like, wings, birds, touch, maybe.
No. It's like the Conservatives. I don't publicly support them. I take a lot of... I dump on them a lot. So much so that even the people, my friends up in Canada, who say the Conservatives are our only way out. And I was like, all right, for now, at least they'll be not a step in the right direction. They'll just be not taking a step in the wrong direction. But the Conservative Party of Canada, they supported the conversion therapy ban. You voted unanimously in favor of it. They didn't really support the truckers until it became cool. Then they stopped when it didn't. They support censorship. They say, I mean, they're liberal light. I'm a People's Party of Canada, Maxime Bernier party man. I ran for the party. It's the only party really that I'll have loyalty to as far as I'll ever, forever. Things could change, but not for now. But look, realistically, Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives are going to get a majority in the next election, assuming we have one. The thing about the H5N1 that scares me is I think they're looking for a pretext to pull Zelensky and declare martial law or suspend elections so that the Conservatives can't come into power. But look, at the end of the day, the Conservatives are not much different than the Liberals. They just go the same. You'll get to the same spot, just a little bit slower. So I'm hoping that at some point you get some People's Party of Canada voices in Parliament who will actually be a meaningful opposition voice to sway the Conservatives back, not to conservatism, just to constitutionalism.
Yeah, and the problem with Canadians is that they're just so daggone nice. Like Canadians are just nice people. Like I haven't met a Canadian that I didn't like. I'm sorry, except for Trudeau. But I mean, I would never hang out with them anyway. But they're just nice people. They're very polite. They're, it becomes so difficult to see.
I'll say something. It'll be mildly politically incorrect. I've come to understand that there's a difference between being polite and being deferential to authority. And I'll say that Canadians are certainly deferential to authority, which makes them polite under certain circumstances and makes them the closet tyrant, as we witnessed during COVID, where when you're deferential to authority, you're polite until people don't defer to authority, and then they turn into that screaming liberal lady that became the meme. I ran for the People's Party of Canada in Westmount. All it took was COVID for neighbors to call Westmount security because their kids were playing in the playground when the swings were locked up. So some call it politeness, but I think it's a deference to authority that can actually be a double-edged sword when it comes to behavior, because you will tolerate people who go along to get along until they no longer go along to get along, and then you have the rivalry that you have between Canada and that zeitgeist and America and its zeitgeist.
Okay, so that there's so much stuff I want to talk to you about. I mean, obviously, I want to bring up the John Eastman comment because I just want to bring it up just because I think it's funny that I've done so much for this entire party for the country in the United States over 4 years. I mean, I've been canceled, beat up. I mean, you name it, they've done it to me. But I don't want to talk about that right now. I want to talk about the fact that the same propaganda that we have, and this is the biggest problem, the news media is a massive problem. It's a problem in Canada. It's a problem in the United States. They propagate and lie about everything. And Freeland had an opening statement at a French debate. Did you get a chance to see this?
Oh, I saw that about the 4-year-old girl in Saskatoon who was nervous about Trump invading Canada. Can you believe how?
Put us both on here. I want you to hear. I got to have you hear this again, because when I heard it, I thought it was a joke. I thought it was AI when I saw it first. So did I. I said that that cannot be real. Yeah, bring it up. Let's play it. Put this on the side and bring it up. So I got to see.
Plus, she was wearing makeup. She looked like a little schoolgirl. Like, it's the first time I've seen her dolled up for anything.
A few weeks ago in Saskatoon, I met a little 4-year-old girl. She asked me whether I could prevent Trump from invading our country. And
it's a comedy.
I am standing to lead the Liberal Party and to become the next Prime Minister of Canada. Trump represents the greatest threat to Canada since World War II. He is threatening us with an economic war, and that's nothing new. The last time that he was president, he threatened us too, and at the end of the day, I succeeded in protecting our economy. But this time, Trump's threats are worse. He wants to turn Canada into the 51st state, and it's no joke. That is why he is supporting Vladimir Putin's criminal attempt to redraw Ukraine's borders. Trump wants to redraw our borders too. We need a leader who understands the seriousness of these challenges and how to face them. A leader that can respond and defend everyone in our wonderful country. I will fight for us I will fight for Canada. And together, we will win.
Everything about it, it looks like a joke. Like, first, she starts off like, I saw a 4-year-old girl. It's jokes start off like that. But I said, I was talking about this today on my show. I was like, it's one of two things. Either it didn't happen, which I think it didn't, or it did. And the only reason a 4-year-old girl would be so traumatized about Trump invading her country is if she had batshit crazy parents who polluted her mind with that fear mongering day in and day out. Like, kids are not going to reflexively have environment crisis, or what is it, climate crisis anxiety. They indoctrinate kids to be fearful of the environment, to think they can't have kids, to fear their own farts. I mean, literally. They indoctrinate kids to think that they don't know what sex they are. Like, they look down and see a pee-pee and a VV and they don't know what they are. And if this 4-year-old girl actually said that, I can guarantee you she's got crazy parents. But more likely than not, it's a fabricated lie that pathological liar, Chrystia Freeland, decided to bring up because it sounds like Kamala Harris when she was going, freedom, I'm fighting for freedom. Yeah, I met a 4-year-old kid in Saskatoon who's afraid of Trump invading. Horse crap.
It doesn't even make sense. I mean, it brings me back to the Thunberg stage of, you're stealing my future. and it just keeps getting worse. Like, there's people that are out there just justifying this behavior. And I'm going to myself, this can't be real. Like, I feel like I'm in a cartoon.
She thinks that she beat Trump the first time. First of all, the economy in Canada and inflation, it's in shambles. They've been talking about it forever. Second of all, they had 4 years of Trump and he didn't invade and didn't do anything. And yet they're now building up Hitler didn't do it the first time, but he's really going to do it the second time. And the audacity to say that Trump is the greatest threat to Canada since World War II, when Canada and the Canadian government are literally being infiltrated by terrorist elements from the Indian government, Chinese Communist Party elements. And then she has I was going to say the balls, but I want to be mildly polite. The audacity to say that Trump is the biggest threat to Canada since World War II. I mean, it's ironic that Nazis would be on her mind, given her family history, given her posing with Ukrainian Nazi symbols, her inviting a Ukrainian Nazi SS soldier into the parliament to giving them a standing ovation. It's insulting to human intelligence, to human dignity, to see crap like this. And I swear to you, when I saw her, and she's wearing like thick foundation, you could barely see any wrinkles on her face. I'm like, oh, this is AI.
That's what I thought it was. I ran it through a machine to see if it was. I was like, this can't be real.
And they're doing part 2 tonight. I mean, people didn't get enough from yesterday.
But I mean, but are people in Canada biting off on this? Are they believing this? Is there a certain amount of people that are simping up to the idea that this is real? I mean, you'd have to be a moron.
Joel, I'm not going to call Canadians morons. They are indoctrinated and they get their media from CBC News, CTV, Global. I don't know if City News is still around. They get their news from the National Post, Toronto Star, and they believe it. And the problem is there's still a substantial portion of Canadians, and I would dare say close to half, who think that the Ottawa trucker protest was an occupation fueled by Russian money, right-wing Nazis, xenophobic stuff. There's still, I would say, half of Canada has a negative impression of the Ottawa protest. That's my own personal assessment. People are buying it up. People only get their news not from the rebel news that's retweeting that with commentary, but from the CTV, CBC, Radio-Canada that are broadcasting it with affirmation. And who do you have the debate between? You don't have the Ruby Dalla of the Liberal Party up there. You got WEF whore Mark Carney and WEF whore Chrystia Freeland. She was on the board of trustees of the WEF, siphoning and funneling off hundreds of millions of Canadian taxpayer dollars to her home country, Ukraine. And you got her debating Carney. I mean, that's literally
where she was a reporter. And she's been lobbying for the money that. I mean, Trudeau just gave $5 billion to Ukraine. I just can't even understand it. It's pennies compared to the United States, but still.
No, it's all proportionate to overall GDP. It's amazing, and they distract from their own corruption, their own failings, their own foreign infiltration into their government. And the way they distract from it is by looking at Orange Man bad and look how bad things are in America. Oh, DeSantis in Florida. The amount of Canadians that I have to fight with that you can be gay in Florida, and the "Don't Say Gay" bill was a lie of a name for a law. I mean, the amount, and I'm from a relatively, I would say, well-informed milieu up in Canada. They buy it all because they have no dissenting voices, and they have no. Do you know what the concept of folie à deux is? It's when two people go crazy together.
Crazy,
so like a husband and a wife don't go crazy because they just bounce off their craziness to one another. Nobody grounds them. It's like folie nationale. It's national madness. There is nobody out there except for the rebel newses who, they have a limited market.
No arbiter of reality. No arbiter of reality. Yeah. Okay. So it's kind of a downward spiral from there. If you look at what's happening collectively in the United States versus Canada, and it's not just that. You look at Ukraine and what's happening there. You brought something up in that the Danish Parliament. I don't know if you know this. They gave a standing ovation to an Azov battalion actual Nazi from. A decorated Nazi, soldier from Ukraine.
You mean
happened.
The Canadian Parliament?
No, the Danish Parliament.
They did it too?
Yes. Literally just happened. I'm talking about a 28-year-old guy that literally was the face of, or actually not 28 anymore, 32-year-old guy now that was the face of the Azov battalion. I mean, the ones that tortured their own people inside of Ukraine and basically were the bashing force that happened in the Donbass region during that conflict over 8 years.
It's so wild. I mean, we did it in Canada too, but we did it with I remember his name, but it doesn't really matter. 90-some-odd-year-old guy from World War II. It's absolutely wild that these are the same people calling Trump Hitler and fascistic and Nazi-esque. I mean, it's like, I don't know if they're doing it on purpose or they're just so painfully ignorant and geopolitically illiterate that they don't even know what they're doing, but both of which are equally bad because these are the people making foreign policy decisions, not knowing who they're supporting. And everybody always says, like, oh, if you don't support Ukraine, you support Putin. There are fights in the world where I support neither. I don't trust any government anywhere, period, with the exception of, a couple of politicians and a handful of politicians. But like, there's some conflicts not getting involved and certainly not neglecting our own people for these unilaterally and arbitrarily determined to be litmus tests, foreign conflicts that we absolutely need to get into. They're so geopolitically ignorant. They don't know about the Nazi past and present of the Azov battalion. And then they want to focus on the Wagner group in Russia. It's like, okay, fine. So they're both corrupt governments. They're both fighting over disputed land. Why do we need to get involved? The only reason, resources and NATO expansion. And then they turn it into our national so-called best interest when they have no idea of the history or the present that they're supporting.
So that I don't even actually, I have nothing of any value to add to what you just said other than an exclamation point. Just be like, exclamation point. I'm over here like telling Apollo, what? Cut this part. Put this part. We got to put this out. Cut this part.
Well, now I'm going to kick myself that I don't have my good camera, my good mic, but maybe that fuzzy look gives me a few wrinkles.
Hey, it's AI. I'll just tell everybody it's AI. It's AI. All right. So you last week you had John
Eastman
on, and I got to know John Eastman by fire. I mean, I'll just tell you how I first met him was on January 5th, 2021. Everything that was happening. It's actually January 4th, 2021. We're in there. We're trying to work the problems on the elections that were stolen in the United States. I obviously was the guy that was on the call with Eric Coomer. It's, I call it a God thing. I don't know how you pick a guy out of 2,500 employees and happen to be a Nazi or a skinhead drug addict. I mean, I don't even know how it's possible to pick a guy out of 2,500 people that like that if it wasn't him on the call. And it just happens to be all the bad things that he is. And it sound like him. It's all, I don't even know how it's possible. But regardless, put that aside. I met John Eastman because I built a model in 2020. It's a model that basically said, this is how they stole the election. I'm a system architect. I went through it. I put that model together. Apollo, if we have it, we can grab it. If we don't, it's not a big deal. And I said, look, this is how they're going to steal the election on January 5th. It was the runoff election for the Georgia Senate race. And I was like, first, it's going to be the Republicans winning. They're going to be barely winning. They're going to be using basically PID function or the ability to controllers to actually get it to a fixed point, right? And then the system's going to come down. They're going to come back up. You'll have suspended votes or fraudulent votes that get put in the system. And all of a sudden, the two Republicans that are winning, that are barely winning, it's going to flip and the ratio is going to be 0.2 to 0.3%. So this is the model. So I built this model. I told them what the adjudication processes were, how they were adjudicating the process on signature inspection on number one. And I said that there had to be an outside internet connection. And remember that John Post just before this had decided to say that there was no internet connections. They're not connected to the internet at all. And nobody had access to it. Nobody had access to anything in Arizona. We had no audits. We had nothing that happened with Tina Peters. None of that stuff was true, right? So I did this based upon consolidation. I consolidated information from multiple states and I condensed it. And then I was able to, through that, look at the threat index of where people would have to create those problems. So those are the numbers, right? So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Those are the places by which you could create what I call big cons and small cons. So I told John Eastman on the 4th, this is how they're going to steal the election on the 5th, right before the 6th, right? And I wouldn't say they laughed at me, but I mean, like Patrick Byrne laughed at me in his thing, said, "Oh, it's a nice theory." I was like, "This isn't a theory. This is how the system works, and this is how they're going to steal the election." Down to the particle of how the system would work and what would have to happen in order to steal the election happened. January 5th happened. I get up on Freedom Plaza. I put this model up. I was like, "This is how they're going to steal the election tonight in Georgia." Right? All the TVs went out one by one. All the lights went out they were basically cut off. And I was like, "Oh, we got a problem here." Now, fast forward 2:00 in the morning on January 6th, because they said, "Hey, look, we really want you to present this model, maybe have you meet with the president or setting up all this stuff." I'm meeting with other groups of people that had more access to data that was specific to Seidel and how the information was flowing from Seidel to Edison and to the news sources. And so they were able to verify things that I had, and I had never talked to them before. Now, fast forward to this 2:00 in the morning on the 6th, I get a phone call that said, "Joe, get over here to the Willard Hotel." I'm like, "Okay." I boop, beep, bop, boop, boop, walk down, go over to the Willard. They're like, "How did you know?" I'm like, "I was clairvoyant." I literally said, "I'm clairvoyant." And they're like, "How'd you know?" I was like, "Bro, I know this is a model. I promise you this is how it was going to happen." They go, "We have to get in front of the State Department." January 6th, I was at the State Department with a previous Secretary of State, Deputy Secretary of State, supposed to meet with Pompeo and to meet with counsel. I'm in there in a room with a bunch of people. And that's when I saw that counsel from Pompeo, he's stalling. He has sweat on his brow. I'm in a Faraday box. And that's when I knew that he knew that I knew he knew the election was stolen. And I was like, I got to get out of there. Apollo was there. Apollo was with me, who now runs and produces all the show. And Viva, I got to tell you that the scary part about all this is that John Eastman, when he was up on the Ellipsis stage and all the things that he said on the Ellipsis stage, those were the things that he had grilled me. He grilled me for hours. Like he would come in and he's like, "Tell me about this." And I was like, "Okay, here's how the system works. They can suspend the ballots. Inside of the suspension, here's a folder. And that folder allows for them to draw those down through the adjudication process. Eric Coomer owns the adjudication process. Like he owns it." And he's like, "No." And I'm like, "Here, let me show you." And I go, the adjudication process is designed, and that's why you see these high failure rates on adjudication. So it went from 0.1, which is the acceptable limit, to 7, 8, 10, 12, 15. Michigan worse, Florida worse, Texas worse. I mean, all sorts of states worse, Colorado worse. And so as we walked through the process, and I was with John Eastman, I only bring this up because you had him on, you interviewed him. I've never seen a man that is as competent, as calm, as nice a man as that man is. Like he is one of the smartest men that I've ever sat in the room with. I've been with the room with him. I've been on panels with him. He's just ridiculously smart. And he's gracious, even as he gets attacked. Right?
My initial exposure to John was, I had seen the Lawfare documentary, The Eastman Dilemma.
Yeah,
I've been following his story as well from the beginning, like when they were trying to have him disbarred, and he was one of the few attorneys fighting back and actually successfully fighting back. But yeah, when we had him on, you see, when it comes to the 2020 election, it's not a question of picking the simpler of the frauds. Having lived through now the long counts, what we saw in California, what we saw them try to do in Pennsylvania, I'm more for opting for the much easier way of fortifying the election, which is, just let us know how many ballots we need and we'll find them, which is why in 2020 they could find the ballots they needed to basically swing all the swing states. as opposed to the more complicated method, which other people have gone with. But at the end of the day, it's 6 of one way, half a dozen the other, because the 2020 election was not a constitutionally proper election, period. And in as much as people think 2024 was stolen, let's do an audit of both. Do an audit of 2024 and 2020. Everyone will be happy. Eastman was on. We had him on talking about the birthright citizenship executive order. And look, I defer to Robert Barnes 95% of the time. Every now and again, I'll get smart. I'll stick to my own. The biggest legal brain on earth, because he can contextualize historically the information with the spirit of the time. Eastman convinced me that he's right on the executive order. I heard Barnes's argument, and it was very compelling. But Eastman you understand why they needed to sideline him as an attorney, as a 100%. Legal mind, as a spokesperson, because it's not just that he's persuasive in a superficial car salesman way. He's persuasive in an intellectually, historically justified way. And I now fully appreciate why they picked on a relatively obscure man with an impeccable reputation to destroy him, because he's wicked smart, wicked convincing in the way he conveys thoughts. And they didn't want him in a Trump administration, and this was the way to take him out. But he's still, he has his influence still. But yeah, totally amazing individual.
But Viva, here's the problem with John Eastman is that you just hit on all the subject matter related to him. He is what happens when competency meets intelligence. You have people that are intelligent that can talk, articulately to a problem, and then you have people that are wholly competent that can argue it based upon historically what they know about law. And to become such a student of history when it comes to constitutional law and be able to apply that is something that is rare. That's a rarity in any profession. And so you have a guy like him, and they're doing the same thing to people like other people. I'm not going to bring it up because I know you're friends with both sides, and I don't want to inflame anything. So there's other people that are related to government positions and things like that, where the same could be true, right? That they're competent, they're highly intelligent.
Joel, not to start anything, I need to know who you're talking about.
Kyle Seraphin. There's the whole thing about him talking about the Ray Dennis.
Everybody, people can have their flaws and have their values at the same, be value added at the same time.
I mean, Kyle's a great man, right? He's a very honorable man, and he gave up a career, and a notable career as an FBI agent, and he's very competent, and he's also very intelligent. And so when he tries to get to the facts, he runs straight towards the facts. And so sometimes he says that, they wanted to have this thing where they addressed the fact that they were that they had a SOP for lethal force. It's a part of the formula. They don't change it in the FBI. It doesn't change because of who your target is, period. And that's all he was saying. And that turned into, that he was saying.
But even, I appreciate that there were the two ends of that fight where some people were saying it's not out of the ordinary, I appreciated both arguments. And it was one of those situations where it's bad either way. Either they added it or they didn't, in which case they authorized it regardless. So that was one of the debates where a lot of the time, look, there's unnecessary infighting sometimes, and I'm not
1,000%.
But I'm not totally clean on it either. I do try to focus my efforts of fighting on the Jasmine Crockett's and the Eric Swalwells of the world, and not internally, even if I disagree with somebody. But that was one of those things where okay, fine. So it's standard operating procedure. They use first of all, it's a problem. Oh, my camera's going crazy again. It's a problem that the FBI has the permission to use deadly force when effecting raids. It's why that 70-some-odd-year-old man with the Facebook post got summarily executed. It's
on his porch.
That's the problem.
Yeah. Yeah, and so that leads me to the next thing. So, but John Eastman, you got a question. One of the questions was Joe supposed to testify in your trial, and is he deep state? Is deep state asset? I keep thinking to myself, I actually want to see what John has to say here. Okay, I mean, this could be great.
There are people, and I can understand at some point everybody's a Mossad agent. At some point, everybody's a double fakey controlled opposition. There are people who think that Jake Lang is a Fed. And I don't even know what they mean by that. You don't go to jail for 4 years if you're a Fed. But then he's in jail, but he's cooperating with authorities, or he's framing other Jan 6ers. I have yet to find a lick of that with Jake, but they make the.
It's not true.
No, I know, and they make the accusations of the most absurd victims of it. There's a guy, Jeremy McKenzie, up in Canada, Diagolon founder, who he bore the brunt of lawfare, criminal, weaponized prosecution, and people think he's a Fed. And then I don't even know what they mean by it. Okay, so Enrique Tarrio, Fed, because 10 years ago he cooperated with authorities in the context of taking down trafficking rings. That's not what we mean when we say someone's a Fed. We mean Ray Epps, Fed, like doesn't get punished, gets a pat on the back, gets the golden treatment by the January 6th criminal committee. So no, I just thought the question was curious because I couldn't even understand how someone would think that you're a Fed. I think, in as much as you might have made some statements which come back to haunt you, same thing with Giuliani, same thing with Sidney Powell. I would never think Giuliani's a Fed until very much proof to the contrary. But I've never known you for anything other than an honorable person, so I didn't even understand the question as I was reading it.
Yeah, so it gets to the point where I was, I didn't even reach out to John yet because since I've talked to him, but I didn't testify. He didn't say this, but I didn't testify in the trial because it got moved, and then when I was supposed to fly in to do it, I'm on the phone with him. He's like, "Send this stuff over to me," so I did. And then I'm like, "Oh, by the way, I got quite a few death threats now. They certainly don't want me in California." He says, "Wait, what happened?" All right, so Joe, we're not. Let me go talk to the lawyers. So it was a purposeful thing on his side that it wasn't germane to what they were talking about right then. But I certainly think that I would have blown the doors off of some of the indictments that they had on the character of John Eastman. So
I do have to explain what's going on with my camera too. This is the built-in Mac camera, and I have no idea why it has AI. And it's like, for what I'm trying not to move, and this camera decides to go focus on my Trump shoes above my wall.
I like your Trump shoes.
Yeah, they're cool. They're actually, I've only worn one pair once. The other one I'm keeping totally intact. But no, I don't know what this built-in camera decides to go like full AI scanning the room for some reason. So
it's you know what? It's a Fed. I just want you to know right now it's deep state and it's coming for you.
All right, well, that I have. I operate on the basis everything is always listening to me. Everyone's like, use Signal, Viva, use Telegram. It's like, you think what difference does that make? Like, what was the Israeli spy system? It had a word of a bird, I think.
Apollo. What is it? It's was a sparrow. No, it's
If you had it, if my chat would get that. And oh, come on. Anyways, bottom line. I have no doubt that this is going everywhere. That's why live a transparent life, and you have little to fear. But it's very annoying. I have to figure this out afterwards.
All right, Tina Peters, and I don't know how much time do I have you left for? How much time?
Let's go 7 more minutes.
Okay, so that's good because Tina Peters, you've done analysis of many things. You've analyzed a lot of different court cases just from the perspective of what the legal limitations are, what the chances of those things are. Obviously, President Trump can't, in a typical sense, give her a pardon, but she's sitting in jail right now. She's literally in jail
for 9 years.
9 years. 9 years and the only reason it's 9 years is because she has to serve them consecutively. I mean, normally it's concurrently, and you have whatever it ends up being, like 2.5 years. She probably would have been out by April, but made it so that she had to run these consecutively. I mean, you've looked at this case. How do you look at this from any other eyes than that there was some sort of conspiracy or collusion between the DA, Merrick Garland, the AG's office in Colorado, not giving her the ability to have a defense at all, and then throwing the book at her in a way that it violates every rule of conduct by a judge?
It's the same MO that we've seen in pretty much every one of these lawfare cases, from the Judge Engeron in New York to Mershon in New York to Judge Kaplan in New York to Alex Jones to Rudy Giuliani to the Jan Sixers to the most recent. I mean, it's Robert Barnes is on this case in Seattle. It's lawfare activism from these judges where they default the defendant into liability, into guilt. And they foreclose them from pleading. They foreclose them from raising certain defenses. They prevent certain witnesses from testifying. So it's basically a manufactured finding of liability or guilt, depending if it's civil or criminal. And then you get these activist judges who sound like spurned ex-partners rendering the judgments. That judge in Tina Peters' case was, I would say, more unhinged than the one I just heard coming out of Seattle in this case with a guy named Kurt Bosshoof. Oh, I forget his last name. But what you have is basically a blueprint, and they do it in every single case. They will manufacture a default to deny you your defenses, like they did with Giuliani and Alex Jones. Oh yeah, didn't comply with discovery, defaulted liability. Giuliani, same thing. In Engoron's case, they deprive the defendant, Trump, of certain legal defenses. And then they say, okay, well, great, you have no defenses, so you must be guilty. They did it to Bannon. Can't raise executive privilege, can't raise, what would otherwise be legal defenses, professional reliance. So they have no defense. So they get up there for some show kangaroo trial. The liability is already foregone conclusion. And then they throw the book at the person because you have an activist judge like the one you had in the Colorado case to remove Trump from the ballot, like you had in Tina Peters' case. There was that judge. If anybody goes back and watches it, you would think that you were looking at the prosecutor, an activist prosecutor, and not a judge. And so, and then consecutive sentences as opposed to concurrent sentences. And so, the system is set up so that there's a default to liability to guilt. They throw the book at you, they deny you your defenses, and then they overpunish you. Where literally, out of Colorado, I mean, it might be the federal versus state, but rapists, convicted rapists, get less time in jail than Tina Peters, a Gold Star mom with an untarnished a social credit, if you want to call it that, a good citizen through and through, and 9 years. And she's 50 or 60 some odd years old. Look at this camera going crazy.
She's 69 years old.
I'm telling you what's going on. It's doing this right now to make me look silly when I'm making those salient points. Yeah, but what they have to do, and Barnes and I have talked about it during our Sunday show, is you're going to get Harmeet Dillon in right now in the Civil Rights Division. They need to go after these judges for violations of civil rights, period. What you have here, if you want to talk about RICO civil rights violations, that's what these judges have engaged upon. These were basically manufactured cases where you violate the all due process rights so that you can railroad someone and lock them up for the rest of their life. Joe, I'm really
Trump. I like it, actually. It's like a subliminal message. Yeah, Viva Trump.
It's like, but it's like, it's just scanning around there. License plate, Trump. Trump has made it clear. There's another guy, Dexter Taylor, out in New York.
Yeah.
10 years. A law-abiding, wonderful citizen, built a firearm in his own apartment from lawfully procured parts, 10 years in jail because you have some activist judge named Darkey who says there's no Second Amendment in this courtroom. Don't bring this into the state of New York. These are civil rights violations. And they've got to get Harmeet Dillon, a civil rights division, to go after these judges, impeach them, and maybe make some criminal examples out of them, because they won't stop until one of them is either disbarred or sitting behind bars.
Well, that leads you to the impeachment process and how slowly things are moving. You talk about the 10 years in prison in New York. We have a 14th Amendment for the equal protections clause of the Constitution. And it basically said that citizens can't live in separate out of parity. In other words, you have to have parity of the rights of a citizen of the United States, no matter what state you're in. So you can't be in Florida and have the ability to protect your family, and be in New York and not be able to protect your family, and have a right to bear arms in New York or in Florida, but not have one in New York. So there's an argument that they could put to rest very quickly if they would just address it and say, listen, we're going to put our foot down. Even if you take it to the Supreme Court, even if you don't take it to the Supreme Court, by executive order, he could issue based on the 14th Amendment and force them to overturn that executive action. But it hasn't happened. Well, I'm trying to figure out why.
No, well, hopefully he's had a busy first 2 months, but it's already been to the Supreme Court, and you have the Bruin decision, and then you have states basically saying we're going to overtly defy the Supreme Court, while oddly enough attacking Trump of not abiding by the rule of law. It's coming to a head. Trump is assembling a dream team. Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, Pam Bondi. You're going to have Harmeet Dillon. You're going to have Jay Bhattacharya. You have RFK Jr. Give it some time, but not too much time, because meanwhile, I speak with Dexter at least once or twice a week. He's rotting away. It's going to be a year now in May because he was building his own firearms. And you have judges which do not respect the supreme law of the land. I'm still a Canadian schnook, but I thought the Constitution was the supreme law of the land. And you get a New York judge at a state level, protected by the corrupt goon that is Hochul. She'll never get impeached at the state level, saying, no, I do not abide by the Constitution, and do not bring that argument into my courtroom. That is a civil rights violation, and it's got to come from the feds to do what they can to defy these state abuses. Pardoning at the federal level is one way of righting the wrongs, but then the state level, They've got to start going after these rogue judges, these rogue prosecutors, and making some damn good examples out of the particularly most egregious ones of them. And I can think of about 5 names right off the top of my head who would be good examples.
Yeah, no question. Viva, how do people follow you? I think they probably already know how to follow you, but how do they follow you?
Just ask my camera. Basically, Viva Frei everywhere. My real name is David Freiheit. Freiheit means freedom in German. And Viva Frei on Twitter, because some Russian dude already had Viva Frei, and vivabarneslaw.locals.com for our locals community. And we do our Sunday night show, and it's the bestest Sunday night show on the interwebs.
100%. I have to agree with that. I sit back and watch it. I actually quit drinking 4 months ago. So now I don't have anything that I can sit back and have a bourbon and listen to you. So now I just have to sit there and drink coffee.
People have been on the go dry bandwagon. My pleasures in life are a good barbecue steak and a good dry martini. And, so long as it doesn't cause any immediate problems. My doctor wants me to give up all meat, all seafood. And I was like, well, what do you want me to eat? Turkey, chicken. Like, yeah, thanks. Okay. I think not that I'd rather be dead, but I'll take my chances on meat.
Viva, it's so great to have you on. Thank you. God bless you, brother. I look forward to talking to you again more and watching you on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Anytime, Joe.
All right. God bless you.
All right. Bye-bye.
I love having Viva on because one, he's when I was talking about when related to Kyle Seraphin or related to John Eastman, he has competency and he also has intelligence. And so here's a guy that got into podcasting because he has a passion for educating people on what's really happening. And it's fascinating. Him and Barnes, who's a brilliant lawyer in his own regard. And if you don't get a chance, I'll probably put it up there. If you don't get a chance to go watch the show that they had with John Eastman, it was a very spirited debate between the two. I think John Eastman won that one though. I'll just go ahead and say that. There's a ton of other stuff that I wanted to go through with you today. And I'm going to switch gears to this really quick. I'm going to just kind of fly ahead to some things because we've been on here for about an hour and a half. And frankly, I got a ton of stuff I got to get done, guys. I'm like, by the way, I'm just going to say it. Stepping away from Frank's speech was the best thing that I ever did for a couple of reasons. One of which is getting back into my businesses and really just flourishing and growing and innovating and getting involved in technology is what I really have passion for. And so it's been absolutely amazing. And it's allowed me to spend more time just on the people I think that matter and the things that matter in my life. But, it's we're going to grow Untamed Nation. We're going to do some great things. By the way, I just want to tell everyone there's a little button on the Rumble deal. Go ahead and hit the little up thumbs button there. Hit to share it. Your job is to share it to everywhere. Just you share it. And yes, I already know that I am shadow banned. I already know. I got it. You can also go to untamednation.com and you can actually watch it there. You can watch it. You can't watch it on Facebook because they now limit it to 3 people being able to watch it at one time before it gets wonky. You're also on pill.net, so you can go over there. Great guys over there, Matt and Matt, just to saying hello to them a little bit. But I see the Battle Axe Indy is over there as well. So, and then you have Rumble. So we're going to launch this new platform. So just pay attention to that as well. But the reason why I say that it's also given me, well, I didn't say this yet, but it's given me the ability to kind of take a step back and look at the political landscape from a place where I was on the inside, and now I'm trying my best to get on the outside. So we're talking about some of the people that we're going to have on and some of the conversations we're going to have. We're going to have Enrique Tarrio. He'll be on Monday. Just so you know, I got a lot of stuff to talk to him about. That is going to be, I'm going to try and go 2 or 3 hours, and I'm going to talk to him about the fact that he's like, yeah, I'm not afraid to go to jail. And I'm not going to let people put a loudspeaker in my ear because obviously that just happened. He got arrested and released for somebody yelling at him, but yelling in his ear, a radical leftist. But we're going to have some more people on that frankly just question the status quo. It might not be politically popular for you. I've got a couple of Democrats they're going to be coming on that I wholly disagree with some of the things that they say. But we've got to get to a place where we're not trying to convince each other of what's happening, that we get focused in on the things that should be mutually beneficial to all of us, right? And we've got to stop dealing with the political side of let's divide Because if you divide, we're going to end up with the shit politicians we have right now. And they're terrible. I mean, there's no good choice out there in many regards. There isn't. I mean, if you could tell me there is, I mean, I wouldn't be trying to run for, thinking of running, not trying to, but thinking of running for governor of Colorado if I thought for 1 minute that there was great candidates out there that weren't milquetoast. And I don't want to eat milquetoast. Milquetoast is disgusting. You can eat it, but why would you? It's disgusting. So I want to bring more people to the table. People that maybe 10 years ago we wouldn't even ask, are you a Democrat or Republican? And start having some better conversations. 2020 rotted the brain on both sides of the aisle. All right, so let's shift gears a little bit. The U.S. Treasury Department, you guys are going to love this. While you are trying to figure out how to take care of your family, while you are paying taxes 56 cents on every dollar, 56 cents on every dollar, you give to the government. Because how you doing, slave? You're a slave. You're an absolute slave. You know, while you're putting $10,800, by the way, I just want to say this really quick. If you were to put the $10,800 and some odd dollars into Social Security, by the time you actually retire, you'd get like $4,000 a month. Okay. If you put $10,800 into the S&P, I think that would be closer to $18,000 a month. The Social Security benefit program is designed to be legalized theft. It's stealing your money. The Social Security program is not just a joke. It's a disgusting thing that they do and try to steal from you. Take that money and just put it in another little jar that they can do what they just did. Let me just tell you what happened here. The U.S. Treasury can't track $4.7 trillion in payments. Medicare sent $2.7 trillion overseas to people that weren't eligible. $1 trillion, Pentagon lost track of $2.5 trillion. $1 trillion was stolen during the Xi Jinping's pandemic. 70% of that money went overseas. Over 365,000 illegal aliens are received over $500 monthly and Social Security benefits. Millions of Social Security payments going to people over 120 years old. Ages 120 to 129, 3.47 million. Ages 130 to 139, 3.94 million. Ages 140 to 149, 3.54 million. Ages 150 to 159, 1.35 million. There are far more eligible Social Security numbers than there are citizens in the United States. There's 394,943,364, but total population is 334 million, 60 million difference. USAID funneled $250 million to a domestic terrorist, George Soros. George Soros got $250 million. 260, excuse me. USAID sent $4.4 billion to Haiti after the 2010 earthquake. Yet less than 2% reached Haitians, while 56% lined the pockets of D.C. firms and a whopping 6 houses were built. You want to know why Haitians are pissed? Well, you'd be pissed too. USAID bribed 6,200 journalists, 707 news outlets, 279 media sector civil society organizations in 30 different countries so they can tell you Elon Musk wants your data. And President Trump, there's one person on Social Security who's 360 years old, which is approximately 110 years older than our country. Let's go ahead and play it. Let's go ahead and play this small excerpt video about the fact that you are an institutional slave. You are a slave. When you pay your property tax, slave. When you pay your income tax, slave. When you pay your business tax, slave. You're a slave. And they treat you as such. Go ahead and play it.
Transnational fraud rings, terrorist organizations, nation states, North Korea, nuclear weapons programs funded by our tax dollars, China, Nigeria, Iran, Romania, Russia, not our friends necessarily that are being funded by taxpayer dollars. Could you give us some examples of how this is happening?
Yeah. So when you think about what happened during the pandemic, $1 trillion was stolen. 70% of that money went overseas. And I can give you some examples. In a Western state, they had more people applying for unemployment insurance benefits than they had individuals over 18. The people that were stealing the money from Romania were using it to facilitate other fraud schemes that include fentanyl, that include doing things to impact our democracy. On the insider threat, right, the first thing you have to say,
Romania.
my dad was a public servant, is 99% of people that work in the public sector are honest, hardworking individuals. But there are some. And what you need is data and technology to root that out. There were examples during the pandemic. There were some examples even of last week where people got into the Medicaid system in a Western state and stole $50 million in less than 4 months. So you have to have these controls in place, right? These aren't individuals stealing, Mr. Cloud. These are organized criminal groups, both domestic and transnational.
Apollo, where is Raul from? Where did we break in 2021? Yeah, we broke an entire story. I sent someone literally over there to go and interview for him, for Raul, who worked for an organization that literally was harvesting and stealing identities in the United States that were used to create fraudulent ballots and outcomes. And all of a sudden they talk about Romania again. Romania. It's a big problem. It's a huge problem, actually. And let's not forget about this. This just happened, or it didn't just happen. This is just written. Did Elon Musk and Trump just expose the federal payroll scam? The deadline just expired. Thousands of federal employees failed to respond to a simple request. List 5 things you did last week. Think about that. A job that your tax dollars pay for, and they couldn't even be bothered to reply. In response from federal agencies, they told employees don't respond. Elon Musk called them out. The request was utterly trivial. Standard was to type some words and press send. Yet so many failed even that test, urged on by their own managers. You ever witnessed such incompetence and contempt for how your tax dollars are being spent? The president and Elon are digging into something bigger than anyone imagined. The federal government's payroll is a black hole. Who's actually working? Where's the money going? And are the thousands of ghost employees getting paid for nothing? They've already uncovered $65 billion in waste, but that's just the start. Their goal: cut $1 trillion in unnecessary spending. $1 trillion should be $3 trillion. Here's what the deep state is panicking. If these federal employees really exist, why can't they answer a basic question? If they're working so hard, why do agencies refuse to cooperate? If the system isn't corrupt, why is there a cover-up? And get this, Musk and President Trump are giving them one last chance. Those that don't respond again will be terminated. Think about what this means. Think about what this means. For years, they've been told, look at that bee. Where'd that come from? That's weird. For years, they've been told over and over and over again. We've been told we must fund government agencies for bloated, ineffective, and unaccountable. But the truth is finally coming out. We are funding a system that doesn't even know who works for it. We're paying for people who might not even exist. We're watching bureaucrats refuse to justify their own jobs. Yet these same agencies want to lecture you about paying your fair share, expand their power over your life, keep demanding more money, more control, and zero accountability. This is why the POTUS is unlike anything we've ever seen in modern history. And, this is really interesting. We have, I kind of want to play this if we can. It's 3 minutes long. I'm not going to go through the rest of that tweet. But Ducey. Peter Ducey goes on Fox News, which is odd all by itself. If you know anything about Peter Ducey, and he's talking about the fact that the federal government just they can do whatever they want. People, imagine, Apollo, if everyone could do whatever they wanted here. Do you remember when I told you, Apollo? Remember when I told you that we got a call from the Department of Labor, whatever the Department Unemployment Office down in Colorado, and they said you have to pay this person a severance for 5 months. Remember that?
Yeah, when was that? That was like
5 months ago, 4 months, 6 months ago.
Yeah, middle of last year. Yeah.
And what did I say? I think what I said is go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
I said it just like that too.
I was going to say it, but yeah, that's basically what you said.
can literally go get a big stick and stand out in your own yard. I don't care where you do it. And, but yeah, the chance of me doing that are slim enough. Well, we get to tell you. I said, let me tell you something. I don't work for the state of Colorado. I don't bow down to you. I don't have to do anything you said. Well, we'll find you. Find me. Let's see how it works out. I won't pay that either. Right? You don't get to walk in here and tell me what I have to do. And then they sent me this nice little letter that says, okay, well, we've reconsidered it and you need to give it to him for 2 months. And I was like, you need to go get a bigger stick. That one obviously didn't work for you. And this is why people hate me. This is why the radical left hates me. This is why Polis and they just do everything they can to lobby social media platforms. They don't give them a voice, because I want to empower you as people to actually stand up and not be a slave. And it's biblical that says that give up to Caesar what is Caesar's. Can you imagine if giving up to Caesar what is Caesar's was 50% of your pay? Can you imagine that? You go to work and you work 8 hours digging a ditch. And you get $5. And Caesar walks down and says, give me $2.50 because I own half of you. See, taxes were always meant to be a subsidy to allow for things to run, like to have a running economy or society. It was never designed for that running economy to control every part of your life and to create a slave culture that allows for them to institutionally do whatever they want to you at the drop of a hat, to have a system in place where they can literally strip you, create a drought or an opportunity desert, and then tell you that you're the reason why you're in that desert to begin with. And that's what they do. They want to blame it. And now they've just gotten to the point where they just let criminals out there and people that eat people and axe them and start eating their pieces of them, like they did up in I think it's Maine. A cannibal got out after only serving 12 years. Everything that we are seeing right now, everything that we are seeing is the institutional rot coming back to roost. All right, I'm going to skip past this stuff. I'm just going to get to the laughs part. We've had a great day. I mean, look, Viva Frei was absolutely amazing. John Eastman, absolutely an amazing guy. Just want to say right now that Tina Peters will be out of jail soon. Count on it. And people like Jared Polis and Jenna Griswold and Chris Beal, y'all are going to prison for conspiracy. People are going to start singing like birds. Just takes that first, and behind enemy lines here in Colorado. Yeah, we're coming for you. We're going to make sure that the judges are held accountable and that this institutional thing that you have going on here to steal and bilk from the people in this state and around the country, that goes away. But let's talk about some laughs now. Can we have some laughs? I want you to see this. This is so Joy Reid had some words that she wanted to say, and President Trump said he'd show up and play the eulogy, the music for it. Let's go ahead and play it.
Show had value, and that what I was doing had value, and in the end, I try not to cry on TV, and I think this is kind of like me on TV, so I apologize.
That was freaking beautiful. For those on the audio version, that was President Trump playing the what is it called? The recorder. He's playing the recorder in the back, which I thought was amazing. And just something that's actually pretty awesome that I think you should know. The Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department will receive a fleet of 10 Cybertrucks to start patrolling the streets. So I think this is pretty amazing. According to the sheriff, Kevin McMahill, the Cybertrucks will be made to look like LMMPD patrol and SWAT cars, like the picture below. And it has a nice little picture. It's kind of cool looking. I like Cybertrucks quite a bit. You guys like, they're ugly. No, they're not. They're pretty amazing. All right, let's pray it out. You got anything else? We good?
Merch.
Oh, merch. Hats. Show me the hats. Show me the hats. We have hats. We don't have hats. We have hats. We have hats in multiple colors. Trucker hat. All sorts of colors. I like the white one, although I didn't see it. Gray, white, black, white. That one's a good one too. I just got that one. There you go. You have the white one. Trucker hat's the same hat that I wear. It's pretty awesome. Go order your hats. We also have the coins. Again, $19.95 for 2, $29.95 for the 5, set of 5. Pray, Stand, Speak, Act. Right down there as well. The axes are on sale. And I've got some other cool stuff that I'm going to be putting on there as well. So you'll be able to check that out here shortly. So that's it. Let's pray us out, yeah?
Remember, get your T-shirts.
Oh, you're free.
Do anything you can to support Tina.
Yeah, we have an email going out to like 3 million people. So you guys will get the email for this. So you'll get that as well. All right, ready to go?
Ready.
All right, Father God, thank you for just everything. Thank you for having Viva Frei on. Thank you for his wisdom. Thank you for his commentary and his commitment to speaking truth. Father, we're thankful for John Eastman, President Trump, for Kash Patel, for Dan Bongino, for Kyle Seraphin, for the Suspendables, Steve, Friend. We're thankful for the ability for them to all stand together and do your work. Father, I ask you to put a special blessing over top of all of them, individually and collectively. They can set aside petty differences. They can not allow ego to come in between their ability to have people on their team that can guide and protect them and stand shoulder to shoulder with them. Father, I ask you to give them the wisdom that is necessary to kind of swim in the swamp that they're in D.C. Father, I ask you to give them just the true north of the things that they need to do individually in order to protect the country from this institutional rot that they've been dealing with for so long. And Father, I think it's time that we want to give up to Caesar what is Caesar's, but they have taken entirely too much from the families, not just here in Colorado, but around the country. So Father, please help us to work that problem so that we can eliminate the grift and graft and evil that has consumed our communities and more importantly and more specifically our children. Father, I ask you that we may have grace with each other and we may continue to do things that honor you and to keep us in the gap, to stand between those that would do harm and those to be harmed. I ask these things, Father, humbly in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, we'll see you again tomorrow, same time, same bat station. Until then, be good.